Hello, Dave here with emergencyprepguy.com. I appreciate you stopping by. As always, if you get any benefit out of this video, or if you like it at all, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit the little bell so that you're notified when we do future videos. Share it on social media, comment, ask questions, all of that stuff. We appreciate it when you guys do that. It really helps us spread the word. So that's my little plug. I'm excited about this video today. This has been one that's taken several weeks to put together throughout the, this is what we're talking about today is hatching and brooding baby quail. And so in this video, you're going to see from when I first got the eggs and put them in the incubator to where they started hatching, their experiences in the brooder box. And this has been a huge learning experience for me. So I'm hoping that this video will really be of a benefit to those of you that are just getting started to do this. I had watched a whole bunch of videos. I'd felt like I totally understood what I was supposed to do. I've raised lots of chicks. I'd never hatched any. I'd always bought them at the farm supply store, and they were chickens, not, mostly some for laying hens, and most of them, though, were Cornish cross for meat birds. But I've never hatched any eggs, and I've never raised quail before. So this was a huge learning experience for me. And even though I'd watched all these videos and thought I totally understood it, as I got into there and problems started happening, I started realizing that I wasn't as ready as I thought I should be, or as I thought I was. And so I'm hoping that this will be a huge benefit to you guys. And so let's get into the videos where I show the eggs and that sort of thing, and I'll interject from time to time and go over what I did right, what I did wrong, and what I learned from the whole thing and the whole process. So with that, let's get going. Okay, this first clip I'm going to show you, this was filmed actually on April 17th. I got the eggs in the mail from Kansas City Quail. I got them right on the night of the 16th, and so I was filming this the day after I'd put them in the incubator. And I go a little bit over what I've noticed about the incubator, so I think it's interesting. I'm going to leave that part in. So you can kind of get an idea of why I like, what I like about the different incubators that I have. But basically, when I was pulling I got 120 eggs. When I was pulling the eggs very carefully out of the styrofoam that they came in, one of the eggs was just unusually soft, just barely grabbing it, and it cracked. And so out of the 120, 119 went into the incubator. So let's watch this clip. Okay, so if you can see there's a little bit of steam on there. You can see we're running right at about 100 degrees. And you can see that we're at 61% humidity. That's a little bit high. When you first I've noticed when you first fill an incubator up with water, and you turn it on, especially with quail eggs where there's so many eggs that you have in there, the humidity, like all yesterday, I had the humidity up to where it should be, and then I put all the eggs in there because you want to run the incubator a while before, get it all warmed up and everything before you actually put the eggs in. Like 6-8 hours. Anyway, when I put the eggs in, the humidity dropped and stayed down into the low 40s for most of yesterday, the rest of yesterday. Today you can see it's back up to the 60s. What that means is the eggs have absorbed enough of the humidity that they're not drawing on the humidity, and so the humidity was able to go back up to where it was, and it'll start to draw down. I put this back in it to kind of raise the humidity. You got these little plugs. I live in a really dry climate, and so I've noticed it's basically a desert. And so I've noticed that I'm always filling, my incubators up with water really often. So sometimes I'll put one of these plugs back in. Most people in more humid climates will just take these out and not worry about them. When you get you need to have enough air circulation, so I still leave one of them out. And there's plenty of other holes here and so forth. When it gets close to hatching, I'll probably, I'll pull this out, because you want to make sure you got plenty of air for the airflow and for the chicks as they start to hatch. As I mentioned earlier, you can see, if you notice in there's not, I had exactly the amount of eggs, 120, that this egg turner will hold. And you see I don't have them all full, and that's because some of the eggs were too big. They didn't fit right into the Quail egg turner. And so I have this other little giant incubator over here, and you'll notice I have some chucker eggs in there and some quail eggs. By the time it gets close to hatching, I'll take the egg turners out, and I'll be able to move all of the eggs. I'll have all of the quail eggs together, and you can see over here I got some chucker eggs. I just had too many chucker eggs for that, so that's why in the little giant I have some chucker eggs over there too, because I had a few too many. Talk about incubators for a minute. This is Farm Innovator's incubator. If you look below in this article, I'll have a link. Below this video, I'll have a link to an article on my website. It's emergencyprepguy.com. Should be one of the newer articles up there, but I'll have a link to the article where I talk about this process, and in that video I'll have a link to where you can get this Farm Innovators incubator. I'll also have a link to where you can get the little giant. I just personally prefer that's why I got two of them. I personally prefer the Farm Innovators. It's a little bit more expensive, but I can tell the incubator just doesn't have to work as hard to maintain the temperature. I think the farm, this one over here, the little giant, that one must have a smaller motor or whatever. When the heat kicks on, you can hear it. It starts to whine. Not the Farm Innovator that I'm talking about. This one over here, the little giant. The heater starts to whine. It seems to drop temperature more, like more degrees when it drops before it kicks on, and then it kicks on and it just sounds like it's struggling, and it seems to take it longer to get it up to temperature. Where this one, it'll kick on before it drops that much, and it just doesn't take very long to get it back up to temperature. It just seems a lot better quality to me. This Farm Innovator that you're looking at now is slightly more expensive than the other one, but anyway, you can check it out, make your own decision. But that, doing it over again, I would just buy the Farm Innovator. I don't think I would buy the little giant. Okay, it's April 30th. It's the day. It's been 14 days since these quail have been in the incubator, and so what we're gonna do, I'll show you here. Let me switch views. Okay, so in this Farm Innovators incubator thing, we've got the quail eggs in there, and you can see they're in a quail egg turner. And so today's the day I got to take them out of the egg turner and just put them down. If you notice, there's not all of the spots in the egg turner have eggs in it. And the reason is because some of the eggs were so big, they wouldn't fit in there very good. And I was afraid that when the egg turner switches back and forth that it might crack an egg. So I put some of them over in this extra incubator. This incubator I don't like near as good, but It's a little giant, but it works. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take the egg turner out. Okay, as you can see, I've removed the egg turner, and I gotta move fast because I don't want the eggs to cool down. But I've got to take all of the eggs out of this egg turner and lay them very carefully down on here. And I'm going to take the quail eggs out of that incubator too and put them over here. So I'm going to set the camera down and do that, and then I'll come back and show you when I've got it done. Okay, see, we've got all 120 eggs in there. Got them out of that one. So now we got to get the cover back on. These are, it's actually, let me pause, hang on. Okay, I put the lid back on there, and you can see that they're all in there without the egg turner. And these should start hatching about the 2nd of May. So we'll keep you updated and let you know how it goes. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, I just wanted to also add that it's super important to, keep track of what day you put the quail eggs in the incubator, and what day you're supposed to take the egg turner out, and what day they should start hatching, so you're ready for everything. You don't want to forget to take the egg turner out and then have the quail start hatching, trying to walk around on an egg turner. That would be very difficult for them. So this is how I do it. If you can see there, this is the incubator, the quail incubator. I just took the egg turner out, and there you can see I started, in other words, I put the quail in on April 16th. So today's the 14th day. April 30th is the day I'm supposed to remove the egg turner, which I just did. And they're supposed to hatch on May 2nd through 6th, in that range. So that's how I keep track. Okay, we've got our first quail hatching. I'm going to show you those guys here. So here's the incubator, and let's see. I get a little bit of steam on here, but there's 2. You can see those guys. Oh, nope, there's 3 of them there. Those guys are walking around. Got a lot of eggs in there, so they're kind of walking around on top of the eggs. These guys all hatched this morning. And here's 2 more. There's one standing on top of the other guy that just came out. The guy on the bottom there, who's still wet, he's been from one side of the incubator to the other. He's moving around. He's just kind of resting right now because it's probably not appreciating that other guy standing on top of him. But anyway, that's the quail so far. Now today is day 18. So sometimes these hatch as early as day 16, but today's the first day that any of mine have hatched, which is day 18. So anyway, there's that little guy. You can see him better now that the guy got off his head. But like I said, he's just resting because he's been all over the place. And then here's some of those other guys. Oh, and right here, if you can see that egg that's right in the center of the screen, there, right in the center of the screen now, if you can see it's got a little pip, it's got a little hole. Every once in a while I see a beak come out of that, so that one probably will be the next one that hatches. So anyway, hope that was interesting. That was an update. Hey, I wanted to show you the quail are doing really, really good. I just took the first batch of them out. Today is the 19th day since the incubation. And I took the 15 of them out of I have 120 eggs. I took 15 of them out of the incubator already. I'll show you. They've all figured out how to drink already. I mean, I put them in. The quail I'm raising chucker partridges at the same time, and it had a little tougher time getting the chuckers to figure out the water and the food, for that matter. Well, they picked up the food on their own pretty easy, I guess, but the water they had a tough time with. But the quail ran up and started drinking the water, and ran up and started eating. So here we go. Here they're in the brooder. These are the 15. They were all running around a minute ago. They're kind of sacking out now. There's a little guy there. But let me see if I can zoom in a little. There you go. That might be too much. But anyway, they were all running around a minute ago. They must have tuckered themselves out. I just barely put them in here. See, I don't know if you can see that one guy, the little guy that's laying in the food. I'll give him a regular food dish later. I just wanted them to have some that they could get to real easy so they would figure it out. Then I'll give them a regular food dish too. I'll probably leave that and let them knock all that on the floor. Either that or I may dump it in the food bin. I don't know. But anyway, we probably got at least this many already hatched, but look too wet to take them out in the incubator still. So I'll take you over this little guy. What's he doing? Come on, roll over, buddy. Just laying on his back. Okay, so I'm going to turn out to the incubator so you can see what's going on in there. Once they started hatching, the humidity just increased ridiculously. It jumped up to like 89%. I'm hoping the humidity will drop. And so I had it at about 60, high 60s. But anyway, spin this around. So yeah, you can hardly see. I'll show you these later when the humidity drops. I'm going to let the humidity drop because this is, it just really spiked with so many of them hatching. Okay, I wanted to talk for just a second about the last couple of clips that you saw there. Those were a demonstration of some of the mistakes that I have made in this process. When I first was getting ready for this hatch to happen, one of the main videos that I watched talked about how, when they first hatch, you should leave them in there like most of a day, 12 hours at least, until they got fluffy, and then you could take them out. I had watched other ones, but I'd kind of forgotten about the other ones. That was the main one that had stuck in my mind. And so as you can see in that process, that's what I was doing. I was waiting about 12 hours, sometimes a little longer, after each one's hatched, and then I was taking them out. What I didn't know is that what that was doing is if there were any others at the same time that were pipped, which means the chick is trying to hatch, they're knocking little holes in the egg shell to get out. If they've pipped or had the egg cracked at all, that cold air that comes in from me opening the incubator to take the ones out, especially with quail, I guess more so than chickens or other eggs, I guess the quail eggs have a really strong lining in the eggshell, and when that cold air comes in there, it just like that lining just shrink wraps around the quail, and they can't get out. And so what you're supposed to do with quail, and I had watched this video before, I had just kind of forgotten about it because I'd watched that other one where the person was getting in, every 12 hours or whatever. But what you're supposed to do is and I've watched a bunch of other videos since, and this seems to be what most people say to do, is from the time your first one hatches, the quail can live about 3 days, up to 3 days, somewhere between 2 and 3 days, in the incubator without any food or water, just from what they've eaten on the inside of the egg as they were breaking out. and so they can last that long after hatching before they really need food or water. And so I had, just to give you some numbers, I had 119 eggs that were good, because the one broke that I put in the incubator. And out of that, I had I can't remember the exact number. It was a little bit over 50 that actually hatched. But I had about 10 or 12 that I could tell were trying to hatch. They had pipped, or even broken the egg significantly, like where you could get a limb out or whatever, but they never quite made it out, which is really sad. And then I had a few others that were, when I candled them, I could tell they were fully formed in the egg, but they never pipped or anything, never got out. I don't know what that's about. But these ones that had been trying to hatch, I think they got shrink wrapped from me opening the incubator. And so that was really sad. Okay, the other thing that I learned was when I was taking the chicks out after only being in there 12 hours, they were fuzzy and warm and everything. But some of them weren't picking up to food right away. They weren't picking up to water, even though I did the little dip the beak in. You're supposed to just barely dip their beak in the water so they know where it's at when you put them in the brooder box. I did that. There were some of them that just never really took to water or food, and they were just really, really weak. I think I took them out of the brooder, or out of the incubator, too soon, even though they were dry. They just seemed more fragile than they should have been when I took them out. And out of the 50 or so that hatched, I only had 35 that ultimately lived. So 15 or 16, 17 of them didn't make it. And a couple of them, I lost a couple of those because of having what they call sprawl leg. But I had some others that they just never really took to food or water, just never really got strong. They would stand up, kind of lay down. And I think they just got taken out of the incubator too soon. I think it would have been better, because I've watched other videos where they don't lose near so many, and they leave them in up 2 to 3 days till they think the eggs are pretty much done hatching. Okay, in this clip, the chicks were born hatched, I should say. Most of them hatched on May 4th and May 5th. I did have a few hatch on May 6th. So if I were doing this over again, I would not even have taken them out until the end of out of the incubator until the end of May 6th. But anyway, I think this clip was filmed a few days later on May 8th or May 9th, maybe May 10th, somewhere in there. And you'll notice in there that I have marbles in the watering trough. And the reason I have marbles in there is because the quail are so small, the normal waterers like that, the quail can actually fall in and drown. And if they don't drown, they'll step in it and they'll get all wet, and which you don't want them, they'll get cold. And so by putting the marbles in there, they can't fall in, and they can walk on the marbles, but they can still stick their beak in between the marbles and get the water that they need. And so that's worked out pretty good. I did have a couple chicks that still got wet, like when there was too many chicks there. Some of the younger or weaker ones would maybe fall over or whatever, and then their feathers would soak up water. And so I had to watch them real close the first couple of days to keep them dry and keep them out of that. There is another solution that I've been reading about that I'm going to try next time. And I'll put it on the article that I linked to below this video on my website. If you go to that article, I'll also have a link to where you can get these troughs, but they're waterers that are have a narrower trough. They're made for small birds like quail, and they have a lot skinnier trough where they can stick their beak in and to get water, but they can't really fall in it and get wet like that. So I'm going to try that next time. So watch this clip. I just wanted to point that out before you watched it. So. Okay, so here's the brooder box set up. I don't know if you can see it, but there's the 6 mil plastic that it's laying on. I had paper towels as the original bedding because the guy, slightly rednecked on YouTube, he said he switched to starting off the chicks with paper towels, and that was kind of nice when they were brand new. But now that they're all older, and all of these seem to be pretty healthy, I've switched it to some just some straw. Trying that out. Not sure if I've heard with real young chicks you're not supposed to use wood shavings until they get a little older. I might switch to wood shavings. We'll see how this works out. I kind of like wood shavings better so far, but if you can see these quail, they've been eating and everything, so they're kind of, a lot of them are getting tired and bedded down. There's still a few drinking and whatnot. We're standing by the water at least. Okay, as here you can see, this is when I just moved the chicks out to the brooder. This would have been about May 15th or 16th or 17th, right around in there. And they had gotten feathered out enough that I could tell they would be okay here. They still needed heat. But I had 2 brooder boxes actually going. I had chucker partridges that had hatched and brooding at the same time as these quail. And with 2 brooder boxes in the upstairs room of the house, it was just too hot. And so I needed to get one of them out so that I just had 1 brooder box. You can see the quail, they're so dang cute. They're trying out their wings, flying there. And so this part of the video might be a little bit long, but I just wanted you to see, you know, I have straw down, I have plenty of waterers. You notice that I have the waterers up on a cut piece of wood that's about 2 inches thick. It's when they were first little, I would have like a 1-inch piece of wood, just a short one, next to the 2-inch, so that they had steps to climb up, and then I didn't have any trouble with the quail. Here's a little quail that flew out. I have to pick him up and put him back in the box. You can't really see there there I go, I lay him in. But anyway, having the water up on a 2-inch block like that, it just keeps the water clean. They don't kick straw into it, or wood shavings, whatever bedding you have, they don't kick into it as easy. But when they were real little, I had to have a little short, narrow 1-inch piece of wood next to the 2-inch piece of wood, so they had steps to get up in it. Hope that makes sense. Now here is a week later. This is when they're about 3 weeks old. I moved them out of the brooder box into the hatching time cages. And in that article that I linked below this video, I have a link to where you can get these hatching time cages too. And if you look on my YouTube channel, I have a video where I review these hatching time cages and go over what I like about them so much. You'll notice that as I go around here to the side, the quail were a little short to reach out of to get the feeder, so I put a little 2x4 in there so they could climb up. And then I put one in the back. It was wider than a 2x4. It was a cut piece. I think it was a 2x10 that I'd cut off. Anyway, but that gives them something they could stand on to get at the water. Without that, they were a little too short to reach the water, and it was easier to do that than to adjust the I could have lowered the watering a little bit in there, but that's a lot of work. You got to take the cups off and all of that. I didn't want to do that. It was easier just to stick a little step in there so they could reach at it. Here what I'm doing is I'm sticking my finger in there. This is how I'm teaching them to drink out of the automatic water. You can see that little spigot where I'm hitting with my finger there. That triggers water to come out, and then that cup that they're drinking out of is actually not for them to drink out of. It's just a cup that catches drops in case the water ever leaks. It's kind of a catch cup, but it makes it handy to teach them. So like I'm hitting that and I'm filling up the cup there, and then they're drinking out of the water. What that does is it teaches them to learn. They learn that red cup is where they get the water, or that area. And then normally, like with chickens that I've done before, and these quail, I just had to fill up the watering cup 2 or 3 or 4 times. The quail seem to be a little slower at picking it up than the chickens, but they are awfully young. They picked up drinking out of the cup really good, but what happens is once they learn that cup means water, and so they go back there, and when they drink all the water, they know there's supposed to be water in there, and so they go up there looking for water, and they stick their head in there to try to see if there's water at the bottom or whatever, and they bump that nozzle, and they get water on their head, and pretty quick they figure out that nozzle's where the water's coming from, and then they drink out of the water. But it usually, with the chickens that I did, I only had to fill the cup up twice, and they figured it out. With these quail, I had to fill it up like 3 or 4 times each cup before they finally bumped the nozzle enough to figure out that the nozzle's the real source of water. So that's kind of interesting watching them figure that out. I like that automatic watering system. It works really, really well. And when I have the cups full, you can see they're spilling water, but normally when they're just getting it out of the nozzle, they don't really spill much out of it. So, anyway, you can kind of see, I'm going to show the tray here. Since I've got those wood in there, you can see all the poops falling in the center, which is fine. It's kind of funny. But yeah, some of the quail were tall enough to reach the feeder, but there were a few that were short enough that I just didn't want to take any chance of them not being able to reach the water or the food. So that's why I put those blocks in there. In a few days, once they get the hang of everything, I'll take those boards out. Since I was there filming, you see I distracted a bunch of them. They're not eating. As we watch here again, we're going to see them they think I'm gone, and so they're going to start sticking their heads out again and eating. And with sitting on those 2x4s, they're tall enough they can reach the food. I'm keeping the food pretty full in the hatching time food tray there, so that there's no question that they can reach it. Normally I don't have to keep it that full. As they get a little bit bigger and they get longer necks and whatnot, I won't have to fill it up so much. But that's fine. With the hatching time food tray like that, they don't. It's really hard, especially with that orange grate over their food. It's hard for them to make a mess and drag the food into. They don't waste very much with these trays. It's hard for them to spill it. So, yeah, they're just eating away there and chowing down. And these quail, it's just unbelievable to me how fast these quail grow. These things are only 3 weeks old. They're fully feathered out, totally ready. The day that I'm editing this video, they've now been in a whole night. They spent their first night in that hatching time quail cage there, and they've totally figured the watering thing out and everything now. I don't have video of that for you, but I hope you enjoy it. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that video. I appreciate you watching it clear to the end here. And we'll call that a wrap, and we'll talk to you in the next video.